Hey guys, so today I basically want to elaborate a little bit more about my first serious medical hurdle when I was 9 years old. So this really started around November of 92. So I was 9 years old, and for some reason I stopped being able to sleep at night. No one really knew why. My parents didn't, I couldn't understand it. The doctors and hospitals didn't know what was going on. So it's about 2 weeks of me not being able to sleep. And I was still going to school, I was still having normal days, doing homework, seeing friends. I was just very tired. And when I say not being able to sleep, I mean not even 20 minutes throughout the night. And after about a week or so, the teachers at school started telling my mom, when she was picking me up after school, that Oldus is falling asleep during classes, but literally just 2 or 3 minutes, and then she wakes up suddenly as if she can't breathe, as if you're suffocating. And my mom didn't understand it, and neither did I. So we went to Great Ormond Street Hospital, and they said she's absolutely fine. There's nothing wrong with her. She's probably either anxious, stressed out about something, or she could be attention seeking. Either way, another medical failure on the part of doctors when it comes to my life and my situation. That's definitely not what it was. It wasn't a case of seeking attention from my parents. Anyway, another week went on, and the small sleeping spells just kept happening more and more often. Obviously, the more I was getting exhausted, the more I was falling asleep throughout the day. But literally just 2-3 minutes, and I was waking up suddenly, out of breath. And then about 2 or 3 weeks in, I developed a really bad chest infection, which was of December of 92. I was actually close to my 10th birthday, and we ended up in Great Ormond Street Hospital for about 2 weeks. At this point, I really wasn't doing well. Chest infection literally turned into pneumonia within 3 or 4 days of being in hospital. And I was in a really dangerous life and death situation. The doctors, being doctors, instead of being positive and uplifting, ended up taking my parents into a private room, and they basically told my parents that she's not gonna make it and you should say your goodbyes. So doctors are, well, not all doctors, but some doctors are really quick to kill off the patients. So in my personal experiences. And obviously my parents refused to accept what the doctors are saying. And my dad asked, why are you saying such things? You're doctors, you're supposed to believe in the children and believe in science and medicine. And the doctor said, no, she needs a ventilator. And so my dad said, let's give the ventilator a go, which is basically a breathing machine. And they said, well, there's really no point because she's not going to make it past the end of the month. And my dad insisted that they try it anyway, and it was a ventilator called the CPAP. And the CPAP is basically a ventilator that breathes for you entirely. They tried me on that. Unfortunately, that's not what I needed. It wasn't the right ventilator. Obviously, being 9 years old, this is all quite frightening. And putting a mask on your face that's shooting so much air into you can feel quite suffocating. Anyway, it didn't work, which proved the point to the doctors even more, that I definitely wasn't going to make it. Really, this whole story is about my parents pushing the doctors and pushing the hospital to try and find the right ventilator breathing machine for me. Because the doctors weren't doing their job, so it was down to my parents. And instead they found another ventilator. My dad actually found another ventilator, which was called a BiPAP. So instead of a CPAP, it's a BiPAP, which means instead of it breathing for you entirely, with a BiPAP, you take one breath and the ventilator gives you one breath. Again, you take another breath, the ventilator gives you another breath. So it's every second or third breath. Whereas with the CPAP, which wasn't working for me, it breathes for you entirely. And that's not what I needed. It's still not what I need. It's too strong. Whereas I can still breathe a bit on my own. Anyway, so going back to my dad and fighting for my case, as my parents always have, we tried getting a BiPAP, a Great Ormond Street Hospital, which was the best hospital for kids in the world. Didn't have any BiPAP ventilators in the hospital. There was only one BiPAP ventilator, which was being used by another patient at Chelsea and Westminster Hospital. And the Great Ormond Street Hospital contacted Chelsea and Westminster Hospital and they said, no, we're sorry, we can't release the ventilator because another patient is using it. But if and when they leave, we'll get in touch with you to let you know. At this point, the doctors have already completely written me off, as they're usually quite good at doing, and telling my parents she's definitely not gonna make it and you should say your goodbyes now. And so I remember my mom being at work, and it was in the afternoon. I remember my dad walking into my room. It was a private room, which was good. And he walked into my room and I could see from his eyes and his face that he had been quite emotional. Obviously not really wanting me to see that, but I could see he had been quite emotional. And he came and sat down next to me on the bed and held my hand and said, well, what we say is, in our language we say Baba, which is like a sign of affection. So even though he's my dad and you call your dad Baba, instead he says it to you, so it's quite affectionate. He said to me, the doctors are saying you're not gonna make it without this ventilator and with the pneumonia, and I need you not just to prove them wrong, because I know you can prove them wrong. I need you to promise me, I need you to make me a promise now, and promise me that you are gonna make it, you are gonna survive, but you're also gonna make a full recovery from this pneumonia. And if you promise me that you will recover from the pneumonia, I've got this surprise for you. And he opened the envelope next to me and he showed me it was free tickets to go to Tenerife for my 10th birthday, which would have been 2 or 3 weeks later. And obviously as a child of 9 years old, every child is different of course, but I was never one to focus on being sick or ill. For me it's always about recovering. It wasn't really about going on holiday, it was more about seeing the pain and sadness in my dad's face, in his eyes, and telling me I had to promise him that I'd be okay, and that if I was okay we'd all go on this great family trip together, just me, my mum and dad, for my 10th birthday. And he said something to me for the first time I'll never forget, which was, this family won't survive without you. And you're everything to us, and you have to make it. And that's something that stayed with me all these years. And every time I go through something terrible, medically or health-wise, which again I've got so many more stories to go through, with the incompetence of hospitals and medical failures and my unconditional love and support from my parents always. I'll go through more of that later, but my dad's always been a rock. My mom and dad. My mom is my primary carer. She is the strongest, most independent woman I know. And she's the one that's kept me going physically my whole life. And my dad is my emotional guru. That's one way of putting it. My dad is the one who's kept me going through literature, philosophy, mathematics, humanities, psychology, sociology. My parents have made me who I've become. I would never be here today if it wasn't for my parents. Basically, to end the story, which I'll go more into later, a big part of my whole life struggle, I guess you call it a struggle, is I'm always really going through a constant battle between mind over body. Always. I've never given up. I'm never gonna give up. And I'm never gonna let my disability win. No matter what. That's never gonna happen. I don't believe in doing anything halfway. I don't believe in doing anything easily. I don't think anything should be easy. And I feel like we all need to push ourselves as individuals constantly. Well, anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed watching my video today, and please like, subscribe and share if you found it interesting.